Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Extraordinary Talk Show. It's another happy Monday afternoon for you. I always say that Monday is the hardest day of the weekend. But again, that brings it back to your perspective and how you view Mondays. Hello, it's your host again, Della, and I'm so happy to talk to you again today about some things that I think are pretty cool that I think you might too. Everything that I share with you is life hacks and brain hacks. How to train your brain, how to train yourself for success, for happiness, for gratitude, and for a fully satisfying life. Most of us want a fully satisfying life. Not very many of us are truly satisfied by our life. And we feel kind of lost and lonely and wondering how to fix the things that aren't perfect. Well, my magic wand is still in the shop. I've been waiting on the repair on that for a while. But while I've been waiting, I have come across a few tips, tricks, and ideas that can help you and me, because I'm still working on it too, have a better life, have a fuller life, and have more joy in your life. And isn't that kind of just what we all want? So I've told you before that I'm a nurse. Today, I actually got to come in after I had been seeing some patients, so you even get me in my nursing attire with my pretty embroidery that my mother did. Thanks, Mom, Nancy. She did that because I thought my gray scrubs were boring, so she spruced them up for me. So, right to the show. Our show today is about focus, and focus specifically using your reticular activating system. A lot of things that I talk about are very similar. I've talked about perspective. I've talked about intention. I've talked about a lot of those things. So what I'm talking about today isn't necessarily that much different from what I've talked about before. It's really just agreeing with it, coinciding with it, and giving you one more tool in your tool bag to use to make your life better. Reticular activating system. What the heck is that? Great question. Your reticular activating system is actually a bundle of nerves in your brain, right where your brain attaches to the spinal column, that acts as a filter. It's a filter for all of the information that you take in every second of every minute of every day. And let's talk about that for a second, because you might think, well, why do I need a filter? The reason you don't know you need a filter is because your filter's working. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, right? We know that kids with autism very often have sensory issues. And I'm a nurse, I'm not a doctor. It's possible that some of their sensory issues have to do with their reticular activating system not filtering out some of those senses the way that it should. Again, I'm not speaking definitively. That's simply a theory, but I wonder what a doctor would have to say about it. So your reticular activating system serves as a filter for incoming information. You have so much information coming at you all the time. And I'm not talking about what you're hearing on the radio or what you're seeing on TV or YouTube or Netflix. That's all an entire world completely of its own. The reticular activating system is more specifically, one specific area that it works in is your senses, your feeling, touch, sight, taste, smell, all of that. It does also work with information, and we'll get there. But let's start with your senses. Your reticular activating system mediates your overall level of consciousness. It even helps regulate when you're asleep and when you're awake. One problem that many of us have is that at 4 o'clock in the morning, our reticular activating system has been filtering everything out, right? It's been filtering out the noises, the smells. If your dog farts, you're not going to smell that if you're sleeping, hopefully, if you're in a deeper level of sleep. So those are all things that your brain filters out while you're sleeping. And then you have that thought that comes into your head at 4 o'clock in the morning that gets through your reticular activating system that wakes your whole brain up. I don't know about you, but I need to do some work with my reticular activating system to keep the filter working better at 3, 4 in the morning so I could stay asleep. That would be great. That's something I'll be working on. Think about your senses. When you think about, okay, for example, if you were to close your eyes and imagine you didn't have any senses at all. It's a little bit of a exercise to practice this. If you were to close your eyes and imagine not having any senses at all, you can't see, hear, smell, touch, speak, taste, anything. And then think about the way that your clothes feel on your skin. Because right now, as I'm sitting here, I can feel my shirt sitting on my shoulders. Think about the way that your shoes feel around your feet if you're sitting. Think about how the seat feels against your body. And as you're thinking about those things, were you aware of any of that 30 seconds ago before I mentioned it? I'm guessing that you were not, because your reticular activating system was filtering that out. When I brought it to your attention, you turned your focus on to those things and you were able to think about it. Next, think about, what can you smell? My nose isn't great at picking out smells. There's certain things I'm very aware of, but sometimes maybe it's because I don't want to smell those things, so maybe my reticular activating system just filters out the stuff I don't want to smell. Because a lot of times people say, hey, do you smell that? And very oftentimes I don't, or I can only smell it faintly. And I have said previously that, my nose just doesn't work very well, but perhaps it's that my reticular activating system knows I don't want to smell those things, so it's filtering them out for me. That's also really true in your own home. Have you ever noticed that you go to somebody else's house and it smells kind of funny, but they don't notice? That's because their reticular activating system has filtered out the way that their own home smells to them. But when you come over and you're a new person in that environment, your reticular activating system goes, whoa, what's this going on? And because it's so new and so different, your reticular activating system lets that in through the filter, and that might bother you, even though it doesn't bother the person who lives there. So that tells you a little bit of how powerful it is. Next, think of, what can you taste? And if you're not eating anything, you might go, well, that doesn't make any sense. Actually, stop and pay attention. I don't have anything in my mouth that shouldn't be there right now. I've got my teeth, my mouth, my tongue, my lips, but I'm not eating anything. I'm not chewing anything. However, prior to coming into the studio, our station manager, Sean, gave me a piece of gum. I'm not chewing it now, but I can still taste the mintiness from the gum in my mouth. However, had I not asked that question, I don't think I would be able to recognize it if I didn't think about it. That minty taste that, even though it's in my mouth, even though if I were to kiss my husband right now, he could probably taste it, I completely forgot about once I spit the gum out. Next, hearing. What can you hear around you? Stop for a second and think about it. Pick out the individual sounds that you can hear around you. I'm in a studio with soundproof walls, so I don't hear anything that's going on outside of this room. However, I can hear the heater system working, and I can hear my own voice in the headphones, and it sounds different than it does when I hear it just from my own mouth talking. You also might notice wherever you are, you might hear a clock ticking, and maybe it was there the whole time. You didn't notice it before. You might hear the cars that are around you. You might even be able to pick out what sound one car is making versus what sound another car is making if you're out, say, driving or walking. You may be able to hear the wind blowing, the rain outside the door, all those little sounds that you didn't think about. You didn't even realize that you were hearing until you stopped and put your focus on those things. And isn't it crazy how those things were there the whole time? And you didn't even realize it, didn't even think about it until you put your focus on it? Next is, what's often the biggest one, is vision. If you had your eyes closed before and you opened them, what would you see? Now I want you to look around the area where you are and look for everything that is red. Look around in front of you or around you. Turn your head side to side. Look up, look down. Look at all of the things in the room that you're in or the environment that you're in that are red. So you're looking around and you're picking out those red things. Cool. I've got a couple books over there, a phone over here, some things I can see. All right, now that's good. Now close your eyes. How many things did you see that were blue? I'm guessing you might be able to, with your eyes closed, think of a couple things that were blue. However, you told your reticular activating system to look for red. You can open your eyes now. But as long as your reticular activating system was looking for red, it was filtering out all of the blue. So now your eyes are open, you're looking around, you're going, oh, that's blue, and you can see all the things around you that were blue that you couldn't think of a minute ago, even though a minute before that, you'd been looking around the room, actively looking at the items and objects that are in your environment. But because you were looking for red, you didn't see blue. Isn't that interesting? And that kind of carries us over to how our reticular activating system filters through not only our physical sensations, but also thoughts and ideas. One area where you can do this is by being grateful. Do you know somebody who's just grateful all the time? They're that Pollyanna person. Their car might be on fire at the side of the road and it's raining on them, and they're going to be grateful that they have a coat. They're going to find something to be grateful for in any situation. Those people have a well-trained reticular activating system for gratitude. Those are people who have learned to look at the bright side, look for the positive. And you know people like that. You might be somebody like that. And as you're looking around at all these people, sometimes you think, are they looking at the same world that I'm looking at? Because I see a good thing over here and I see a problem here and I see something that frustrates me here, and all that person can do is be grateful. What the heck? The thing is, their reticular activating system is tuned differently than yours, so that their reticular activating system is specifically showing them things that they can and should be grateful for. Isn't that kind of cool? Isn't that something that you would like? Now, I want to be real with you. The reticular activating system and this process can work against you because it will prevent you from seeing things that you want to or should see. This is one problem with positivity. This is one problem with those people who are grateful all the time, is that sometimes, and I am and have been guilty of this specific thing, and a lot of things, but this specific one too, is when I'm so positive, when I'm pushing so hard to keep my spirit up and to keep my thoughts up and to be grateful and to look forward, I tend to tune out the negative things that I probably should be paying attention to. There are often signs and clues in our life that something isn't as it should be. And to tell you the truth, I often miss those things because I don't want to see them. I only want to see good stuff. I only want to see the positive stuff. And so I've trained my reticular activating system to not recognize the negatives. And that can be a problem because there's sometimes that something might be going wrong and I don't always realize it. So think for yourself, if you're one of those great positive people, and my goodness, I hope that you are, remember too, you have to be realistic and train your reticular activating system to show you concerns and red flags that you should see, negative things, problems that you should be aware of. Here's a really good question though. Why doesn't it do that for us? If our brain is so smart and can do all these things and can filter all this stuff out, why doesn't it just give us the good stuff? Tell us all the things that we need to see. Help us see the positive, but also help us be acutely aware of complications. Here's the thing. Your brain and your reticular activating system is a part of your brain. Your brain loves you. Your brain, it's almost like a whole other voice that lives in your head that hears everything that you're saying, hears all of your thoughts, and says, okay, all right, how can we make this the best? How can we give you everything that you want? Because your brain loves you so much, it wants to give you everything that you want. The problem is what you want may not be what you need. For me, what I want is to see sunshine and bubbles all the time. And what I need is to sometimes see an issue or a problem that I should be aware of. But the sunshine's shining in my face and I can't see through the bubbles, so I don't recognize those problems. This is a concern for me. It's something that I have to work to train myself on. But I've also worked so hard to train my reticular activating system to only see the good stuff that I've essentially done that to myself. So one thing that I'm working on is seeing all of the great things, but also being realistic enough to recognize and to train my reticular activating system to show me the things that maybe aren't as positive, but I still need to see in order to make the best choices I can with the information that I have. I need the best information, right? It's a funny thing about your brain. Your brain wants to give you what you want. Your brain wants to validate your beliefs, which means that if you believe that you are just the coolest person, everybody loves you, everybody wants to be with you, you're going to have information in your environment that may contribute to that belief or may go against that belief. But your reticular activating system is going to filter out the information that goes against that belief, and it's going to accept and bring to your consciousness the information that supports that belief. Now, I always hesitate to talk about politics on here, and I'm not going to go into any politics. What I am going to talk about is how this is a problem with politics and specifically people's opinions on politics. And if you don't believe me, try reading some comments on Facebook. Our filters in our brain, our reticular activating system, love us so much they want to reinforce and validate our beliefs. Therefore, when you come across information, be it a Facebook post, a comment, an article, a video that supports what you believe, you will grab onto the parts of that thing that support your belief, that validate your belief. Even to the point that you may ignore, cast aside, or even speak negatively about things that don't support your belief. And I often find, as I peruse these comments, because I do it for entertainment, that many people who are arguing a point are not actually arguing all of the reasons of that point, all of the things about that point that prove it. What they're arguing, or not that prove it, but all the parts that explain the entire point, they only argue the points that reaffirm what they're trying to say. We've all seen this. And we've all noticed it in each other. And I guarantee if you think you're smart on politics, write a Facebook comment and somebody will point out to you all of the areas that your reticular activating system is lying to you. That's a great way to find out when your reticular activating system isn't telling you the truth. Talk about it on Facebook because people will point it out for you. Consider whatever your beliefs are. If it's about your life being good, if it's about your life being bad, if it's about this politician or that idea or opportunities in your life or anything that you believe, the information that gets through your reticular activating system is most likely going to support your belief. One way this is a problem is if you feel really terrible about yourself. If you don't like who you are, and if you look at things about you and you say, well, I suck at this, and I'm not very good at this, and I wish I could do this, but I can't. If you're saying those things to yourself, your reticular activating system wants to give you what it thinks you want. And if the thoughts that you're bringing to your own mind consciously are negative thoughts about yourself, guess what your reticular activating system is going to bring to you? It's going to bring you more negative thoughts about yourself, which will continue to validate that belief. And I know that some of you understand what I'm talking about, probably a lot of you, because all of us have those thoughts about ourselves at some point or other. And then you might notice that it kind of catches you up in a cyclone when you have one bad thought about you're doing pretty good, and then you have a bad thought about yourself, and then you have another bad thought about yourself, and then you have another bad thought about yourself, and then your reticular activating system goes, "Oh, I got this." And then boom, 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 all the negative thoughts about yourself. And if you've been through that, and most of us have, you can probably recognize the pattern that it started with 1 and 2 and 3 thoughts and then snowballed because your reticular activating system loves you so much it wanted to get right on board with that, jump right into it, and give you everything that you wanted. Except that doesn't bring you happiness and that doesn't bring you joy. So when you have that, that's when you need to recognize the thoughts that you are bringing into your own mind. And here's another thing. Your reticular activating system may send you a thought or a belief to validate something else. That doesn't mean you have to accept it. Not every thought that comes into your head is true. I'm going to say that again. Listen, not every thought that comes into your head is true. Your brain loves you and wants to tell you what you want to hear. And sometimes your brain thinks you want to be lied to. So if you want to believe something, the thoughts, the information, the sensations that come to you are going to validate that belief. You, however, have the power to reframe that thought. So let's say you have the thought that, oh, I suck at cooking. Maybe you were making food, you turned on the stove too high and your grilled cheese sandwich burned, and so you went, oh, I'm a terrible cook. And then your brain goes, oh, he thinks he's a terrible cook. Let's see what we can find to validate that information. And then you might start going through memories of all the times in your life that you've burnt toast. Does that mean you're a terrible cook? No, it doesn't. And that's when you need to take those thoughts that come into your head and say, that's not true. It is true that I burn toast. It is true that I sometimes make mistakes. It is true that twice in a row I left the sugar out of a pumpkin roll. You'd think I would have learned from that the first time. But does that mean I'm a terrible cook? No. And even though those thoughts might be coming into my brain, it's my job to recognize I don't think that's a true thought. And then I have the opportunity, or you have the opportunity to reframe that thought. So I can say what I just said. Yes, I sometimes burn food, but I also very often am able to successfully cook food that tastes good, that people enjoy without burning it. So even though I've made this mistake a few times, I'm still a good cook. And that's purely an example because I don't cook much. And when I do, it's probably grilled cheese. But the point is, you take that thought that came into your head and go, I don't think that's a true thought. And reframe it the way you want it to be. Now that's great, but it's also going to take more than once to change the way that your reticular activating system is tuned. You have to retune your reticular activating system. So what you want to do after that is then become aware of the information around you, or memories or history or something that's going to reinforce the belief you want to have. For the sake of this example, I want to believe I'm a good cook. So I'm going to think about the times that I did remember to put the sugar in the pumpkin roll, and my husband begs for it every year, and I still owe him. He's probably making a comment about that right now. I'm sorry, babe. We'll get there. Hang on. And remind yourself of all of the reasons why the first thought that you had wasn't true, and give yourself evidence, give yourself information, even if you have to stretch, even if you have to say things to yourself that you don't believe. If you think it's true, but you still don't believe it, but it's positive, say it. That is how you reframe your reticular activating system. If your reticular activating system is giving you this, you're a bad cook, you're a bad cook, you're a bad cook, you need to retune it by saying, I'm a good cook, I'm a good cook, I'm a good cook. Here's why. Here's some examples. And then as more things happen, so tomorrow you go out and cook something and it turns out well and you go, see, told you I was a good cook. And then you might even say, you know what, I'm going to take on a challenge and pick up a new recipe and prove to yourself that you can do it. You might even make a mistake the first time. Almost everybody makes a mistake the first time. That's okay. See what I just did? I reframed that so you don't feel so bad about yourself. You can give yourself a little bit of a break. Realize that you deserve a cushion. No one expects you to be perfect the first time every time. Nobody else expects it. Why do you expect it of yourself? That's not fair. Reframe those thoughts and then retune your reticular activating system by giving it the positive thoughts, the right thoughts, the ones that you want it to have. The more aware you are of your reticular activating system and what it's telling you, the more aware you can be of what you tell it back. If it's giving you information that you don't want, you can tell it to give you information that you do want. It takes practice. It doesn't happen overnight. One thing will speed it up. You can probably guess meditation will speed it up because meditation puts you in a lower state of mind, which is actually where the reticular activating system thrives. That's kind of the language that it speaks, is the lower level of consciousness. So if you can meditate, go to that lower level of consciousness with your reticular activating system, you can kind of talk to it one-on-one. It's a little bit easier and gets responses faster. Tuning your reticular activating system can be called setting your intention. If you want to set the intention to have better opportunities in your life, for example, that means you need to point out to your reticular activating system, hey, look, that could be an opportunity, that could be an opportunity, that could be an opportunity. And when you start doing that, your reticular activating system is going to go, oh, look, there's another opportunity. Did you see that one? Did you see that one over there? Because those opportunities were there the whole time. But your reticular activating system didn't think that you cared, didn't think you wanted to know, so it didn't bother to point them out. And you can set your intention, tell your reticular activating system what to see, and get that back, and then gain even more evidence of that belief in your life and why that's right. One quick quote I've got for you by Richard Feynman, who's a really smart, also really funny guy. But he says, the first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. Remember that. Guys, I'm out of time. That's all I have for you with the Extraordinary Talk Show on this Monday. I will be back next week, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Have an amazing, extraordinary week.